Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining us from in the world. Welcome to Open Up, our live talk show here on this Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time from Toronto, Canada. I'm RJ Horner, and I'm the host here for Open Up. I'm also the vice president and voice of Men 360, and I'm a host and facilitator for my own program in a community called Live and Love Life. So let me share a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360, our association with International Men's Day, and why this talk show Open Up is so important to us. Voice of Men 360 is a not-for-profit organization based in Toronto, Canada, and founded in 2020. Many boys and men out there are seeking help and support in many areas of their life, and we understand the demands needed to provide this support to men in our society. Voice of Men was born out of a tremendous need in stepping up to help provide those services to help and support our men and boys. We are part of International Men's Day, and International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years so far and is represented in 90 countries around the world who join together for various activities throughout the year. IMD follows 6 pillars which represent the overall well-being of men and boys, and we follow in those footsteps. Open Up is very important because men and boys are not willing to share their thoughts, their emotions, their attitudes, or their beliefs with anyone. And when we keep those feelings bottled up, they tend to have overall effects to our health and our physical being. So we want to create awareness around this issue and help alleviate those strains for our men and boys. And so we invite you to participate in our show. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, ethnicity. We want everyone to participate. So our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life journey through this program. Open Up is on Sunday mornings again at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And each week we bring an individual and share their life experiences with you. Today, my guest, Brad Hutchinson, is a survivor. He has survived cancer, Hodgkin's disease, and even a suicide attempt. Beyond that, he's now become the executive director for the Gatehouse. He's now a restorative justice trainer and facilitator, and he's the author. He's an author and earned several community recognition awards. He's now a master trainer of ASSIST, which stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. Welcome, Brad, to Open Up, and thank you for joining us and being willing to share your life journey with us.
RJ, it's an honor to be here.
Now, people can hear that you don't talk like the rest of us. You have an issue speaking. What's that like? Are you able to carry on a conversation with people for long term?
I am able to carry on a conversation. When my voice was taken away in 2016, I had to learn how to speak all over again. And so it took a little while, but yes, and I can present and I can facilitate workshops, thankfully, because I think that's part of my spirit, is to inform and help people transform some of the difficulties that they're facing in life.
And that's why I wanted to get that off on the top of the show, because people can tell you face a difficulty right off and you've overcome that and moved forward. So I wanted to get that out there. But we are about the life journey. But so take us back to your childhood. Give us an idea of what life was like for you as a child, if you wouldn't mind.
My life for me as a child was actually very fun. And there's a lot of conflict. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. So there's, when 4 boys and masculine energy is in the house, of course, there's a bit of conflict. But for the most part, I was a happy, hopeful, joyful kid. And then I met with my first trauma at 15 when I was diagnosed with cancer.
At 15. And how was that for you emotionally, if you wouldn't mind?
It was shocking. I was administered to Sick Kids Hospital December 24th, 1980, and spent that whole Christmas season being diagnosed and gone through some very invasive exploratory procedures so that they could come up with a treatment plan and a diagnosis and all that kind of thing. It was shocking, very, very shocking.
And so were you able to manage? Did you have friends and family support at that time?
I had a lot of friends and family. However, there is this thing when I felt, and I'd come to see it many years later at the gatehouse, there are people that had suffered childhood trauma, that there is this all of a sudden a feeling of being apart from. Nobody could understand what I was going through. There were people, compassionate people around me. Of course, there's trauma as reverberating effects to family. Like I couldn't imagine now as a father watching one of my children go through something like that. But it was a feeling of outside. I was outside of normal life. All of a sudden, I was thrust into a whole new reality, and I felt apart from the normal social engagement of life at the time.
Wow. And one of the things I noticed you brought up, you had a lot of male influences in your life. Brothers first and foremost. What was that like? Were they supportive? Were they challenging? You know how brothers can be. How was life like that with your brother?
Oh yeah, it was challenging. It was always, you know, normal. I don't know, normal in the 1970s. You had conflict with your brothers, and I always felt a deep sense of love, but I had to learn how to defend myself psychologically and physically at times. I mean, that was, I think, normal growing up until this whole cancer thing. And then they were supportive, but they were going through their own trauma as well. Like this reverberates. Of course, I didn't understand that at the time, but everybody was in kind of shock. And even this cancer experience, I can't imagine being a loved one, seeing a loved one go through some of the things I went through. In a way, to me, it's like I'm glad it happened to me rather than having to witness that in somebody else. And maybe it sounds like a bit of a strange thing, but I think everybody was in shock.
So I think what you're saying is you knew how to deal with this on your own behalf, but if you had to witness somebody going through this, you wouldn't know how to support them or be there for them. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Now I think I would, but I think there's this feeling of helplessness that comes when you're on the outside watching somebody go through pain. When you're in it, like I had certain things I needed to do. I'm not saying I knew how to deal with it then. I certainly didn't. But you're kind of in it, and you do what you're told, and you trust that things are going to be okay. And on the other side of it, like I went through 9 months of intensive treatment, chemotherapy and radiation, and they just kind of said, "Okay, you're healed. You have no cancer." And I was kind of thrown back out into the world, and the shadow followed me after that because I always felt like nobody really could understand what I had just gone through. So I built this kind of facade, this kind of defensive personality around me, not letting anybody get a little bit too close. And it affected my relationships moving forward because there was a disconnection between what my creative spirit was calling me to do and how I was living in the world.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, listen, it's difficult. I can't imagine what it would be like for a 15-year-old or a teenager to go through such trauma. But I mean, it's a small percentage. We know it's a small percentage of childhood cancers. But is there not some support circle or something to go along with that? You said you went through sick kids. Do they not have something in house that kind of helps people have to overcome this?
Well, now things are things are better from what I understand. But you have to remember it's 1980 and things were very utilitarian. It's my medical staff were all very kind, and but the idea was to save your life. There was little energy at that time around the collateral damage to the emotional well-being of a person. There's more, I mean, emotional um, training and understanding only has really recently come to the forefront on how our traumatic experiences affect our emotional ability to function. And our emotions are this great, valuable source of, I like to say, energy and motion. They can help drive us into a life of passion and purpose. But when they get clogged up with the trauma, then they stop us and we tend to see the world as hostile and dangerous. So we build a barrier around ourselves that locks in our gifts and locks in our life longings, and that creates pain really on two levels. Creates pain in the person. Me, for instance, I wanted this to do something great in the world, and it causes pain to the world because I believe every single person on the planet has a gift to offer the planet that nobody else can. When that's locked inside, then we miss that energy and we feel it at a spiritual level that that's being blocked. And today, there is so much blocked energy out there that the planet is vibrating in trauma right now. And what you guys are doing through this, bringing voice up, it helps to unlock that energy when people tell their stories. Because when people tell their stories, other people can identify with that and say and feel like they're not alone. Like I felt I was alone for so many years, even though there was many good friends and lovely people around me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's exactly what I was getting at. Look, you know what? Back in 1980, we weren't as evolved as we are now. We were caring. We were considered here in Canada. But the evolution has certainly led to things like Voice of Men 360 and the Gatehouse and people doing tremendous supportive work. So you came out of this as a teenager and you started to put up barriers, like you said. You started to block people out. How did you go from that, or what led you from that to being able to help people, to, learning to assist people as,
Well, it was 13 years to the day after my final chemotherapy treatment, which was November 11th, 1981. I found myself in a hospital room with a very painful experience of watching my father die. And not to get too much into that trauma at this in this segment here, but over the course of 5 or 6 hours, I watched the life slip away from my father. And in that time, I was paralyzed mentally, emotionally, and the only thing I could really do was leave the hospital room every now and again to walk down this very dark hallways in the hospital because it was now getting past midnight into November 11th, 1994, and everything shut down. And what happened to me in that trauma, when my old paradigm stopped working, my old ways of seeing the world stopped working, my creative energy was throwing these crazy ideas into my head. One of which was I was supposed to write books. Another one was I was supposed to be a motivational speaker to help people elevate into their spiritual selves. And I was supposed to help people transform trauma, none of which was reflected in my past. So this idea came up. And then after my father died and the dust settled, it was about a year that my old paradigm started working again, started running my life. But this whole idea kept on surfacing and I had to do something with it. So about a year later, I stepped into martial arts club called Beyond Kung Fu. And as Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that step into that club led me in a way to hear there was lots of things happening on the way. But it was me trying to grab a hold of my future that I felt was drifting away. I was 30 years old at the time, and I was thinking I have to do something with my life different than what I'm doing.
And you know what? I'm in a similar boat. I think for most of us, we have to hit hard time before we realize there's that something missing in our life. Something has to trigger the fact that we're not doing or we're not living up to our potential. I love what we're doing. Your organization, mine, for raising that awareness. But what can we do to help our youth step into that and find it maybe a little bit sooner?
Well, I think in my view, there's a lack of positive male role models to help. Then in history, there was always this initiation of the masculine energy into the adult. There was an elder, like in our Aboriginal communities, there's elders, and in our spiritual communities, there are guiding elders that help us make the positive transition into our manhood, as it was, and that involves a lot of helping to just make choices, positive choices, to contribute to the world. That's a very deep longing of our human condition, no matter who you are, is that sense of contribution. And when that's cut off, we tend to disconnect from society and start living for me. I just want to get what I can take. And we're in an instant gratification society. I want to grab it all. The role models that we're seeing are often looking for fame or money, but without that sense of contribution from inside, we lose a sense of our soul. So we need positive male role models in all areas, especially in our justice field. I worked in the restorative justice, helping young people that get caught in the law take a different route rather than going through the court system. They can take responsibility for what they did through community action called restorative justice, which is like an Aboriginal principle of bringing community together.
Wow, I love what you're bringing out. The two things I took out of that were positive positive male role models and contribution. First of all, positive male role models. That's one of our 6 pillars of International Men's Day. And so you had your brothers, but how about that other positive male role model in your life? The first one we're supposed to have. How was your relationship with your father, if we could discuss that for a second?
My relationship with my father was really good. I can't speak for my brothers. At a different time and older brothers, but by the time I came around, the fourth of 4 boys, my parents kind of seemed to have it down a bit better, that I had some freedom. And not to mention, I had, in a way, I had 5 parents. I had 3 older brothers and a mom and a dad. But I think I'm most like my father out of all my brothers. Got a bit of a quirky sense of humor. Um, my father always seemed to really enjoy life for the moment, and got a kind of a carefree, laissez-faire attitude. I think I have that whole idea of live and let live. That's what I saw from my father, and I know that everybody on the planet has a different parent. The way my parents parented my older brothers is different from me, but my relationship with my father was good, and I wanted to emulate that.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So then, other than the male, the father, or the mass media, the videos, the movies, and those people were taught to emulate, where can we find those positive male role models?
Well, mine, where I found it was in a kung fu club. I stepped into a club that took me further in a way more than my family could, because I found teachers that took me step by step when I said, when I finally said, I want to be a writer, I want to be a professional speaker, motivational, and they didn't look at me and say, I don't know, what, you can't do that, which is sometimes a feeling we get from people that know us, especially with what I've done before. They said things like, of course you can do that. You need discipline, focus, control, get on the floor, practice your steps, practice the movements, and whatever you do, don't quit. And 10 years later, I found myself with my teacher, Satyan Raja, wrapping a black sash around my waist and saying, and it was, quite frankly, it was a very difficult 10 years. I felt like quitting. I was writing. I did eventually publish my first novel, but it was very difficult to go back to school and learn all of those things. There were so many times I felt like quitting, but my teachers at the club said, keep going. There's only two things that you need to do to succeed. And the first one is show up. And then he said, do you know what the other thing is? I said, focus, discipline, control. He said, no. He leaned forward and he kind of yelled into my face. He said, show up. That's it. Just show up. Those are the two things, show up and show up. And the thing is that we need to show up to our life. We need somebody that can see where we are to say we're doing okay and take us to the next level. We can't do that on our own. We just can't.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to just touch on it 1 second there, because you mentioned, I mean, martial arts. We think of kicking, we think of punching, we think of training to assault, right, or even defend. But it's more than that, right? It's really about the system of life, right? Being there, showing up, doing the work, that sort of thing.
It is, and it's those outward things that the Western media has taken and blown up, and it's exciting to watch movies like that and to be in that. But it's really about self-perfection and self-preservation, becoming the very best person you can become, being keyed in on understand critique, letting somebody critique where you are without taking offense. And self preservation is far more than just self defense. And in fact, it's about people who become trained in the martial arts in the right clubs will very rarely ever engage in a physical altercation, because you build this energy around you that's peaceful and loving, but it has an energy underneath it that says, I'm not going to be walked over easily. The metaphor is that the lion in the jungle never goes for the fastest, strongest zebra because they're lazy. You ever been to to see lions? They lie around all the time. When they get hungry, they're not going for the zebra that seems strong. And in our life, we want to build this sense of self-confidence, healthy boundaries, and a sense of purpose. And you're not likely to be picked on that way. So you don't really have to fight.
That's exactly it. Setting yourself up and in that feeling of strength and that feeling of power, so that you don't have to utilize that power or feel like you have a lack of power, right?
Yeah. And when my teacher was wrapping that black sash around my waist after that difficult 10 years of getting there, he said to me, your life just got more difficult. And I was like, what do you mean more difficult than that? And he said, you have to go out into the world now and bring what you learned. This is not about you anymore. This is about service. This energy came from 1,500 years into you. Now it's to you to go out and serve the community. Shaolin monks in the temple, they go when there's difficulties in their community, they go to the orphanages and they go and serve. So that's when I really learned that life is about contribution. And that started the whole path of community service, meeting a guy named Arthur Lockhart, which I think you know, and starting down the path of service. And when you think about service first, your whole life opens up. I married my soulmates. We have two beautiful kids. I've written and published 3 books, and I felt like I was contributing in very meaningful ways. And when I got diagnosed with cancer in 2016, I reflected back to the first day I stepped into the Kung Fu Club, and I was so grateful that I didn't let fear, apprehension stop me from moving forward. So that's what mentors do. They help you step out of your comfort zone and into your greatness.
Absolutely. And we need mentors in our lives. And they're all around us, right? Not just in martial arts clubs, but sports clubs, religious organizations, they're all around us, right?
They're everywhere, and there's so much now with the new opening of the social media and all of that. There's a lot. We can look at the world and we can see that there's a lot of bad things happening, and there is, but there's a spiritual awakening happening right now too, and there are so many positive guiding influences that we can start to attach to it. And that's clearly what you're doing here, is connecting people to people in the community and stories to say that, to bring that positive energy into the world. And we need to help
Hello?
you understand the need for mentorship.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, there's so many out there. I encourage everybody to go out there and find them. And like your life of service led you into this organization, the Gatehouse. Tell us a little bit more about it, and in your opinion or involvement within the Gatehouse.
Oh yeah, well, I was hired on as the executive director in 2013, I believe, but I'd met Arthur Lockhart, who founded the Gatehouse in 2006, and my whole training in the martial arts was such a beautiful fit and in alignment with how Arthur actually founded that place. Is the center of mindfulness and that idea of voice. And when people get together and share their stories that they've never been able to share before, or if they have shared it, have met with resistance or negativity because there wasn't a proper container to receive that story, that life changes when when you're sitting in a group of 8 to 10 people, and the stories that start going, the thing about trauma is that it's very hard to articulate. Our emotional centers, it's almost pre-articulation, pre-language. So sometimes when we say things, we think, oh, geez, that sounded stupid. That doesn't even come close to articulating how I'm feeling. But when somebody's on the other side of that saying, oh, I understand, and adds to that, other people's story can help you to find language to better articulate your story and release it from the black box it's been festering for so long. And when that comes out, and as you get, I know you know the Gatehouse, but once you start seeing more and more people that have come through the Gatehouse, the amazing creative energy that's coming through the trauma is outstanding. People are doing music videos and writing books, and there's an art therapy program there, different ways to release that emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It is so important. There needs to be a Gatehouse in every community where people can come and feel free to talk about what's happening inside of them without fear of being judged, in a spirit of compassion, empathy. It's so important, this work.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm glad we got the opportunity to have you promote it and tell people about it. Just a couple things before we finish off this show. What is one way we as a society can help our young boys to develop properly, or to become the best men they can be?
Well, I think number one is to be role models. I think depending on who we comes into our experience, I've worked a lot with children's aid societies, teaching kung fu to kids in care, and worked with youth that are in trouble with the law. Is I think first of all we have to stop judging them for how they look and how they're being, because their actions typically are a call for help if they're doing something that offends our sensibility, rather than throwing them into our legal system, which is retributive and creates a whole other series of traumas. Is to understand what's going on. It doesn't mean you let that behavior continue, but you need somebody that can see that this is coming from a place of trauma, not from a place of attitude. And if we don't address the trauma, we're just going to keep filling up jails. We're just going to keep dividing this separation. We need people like you, RJ, and Sivan, and all these people to say, hey, there are people out there that want to help you. And we need to engage them where they are rather than where we think they should be. And there's a whole process for doing that.
Right, absolutely. That's a conversation for another day, but I like what you just said there. So, what one piece of advice can we give to our youth to help them on that path?
I would say that there is a light inside of you that's looking to get out. If the behaviors, if your life isn't feeling good and joy and happiness are not part of your experience, then you need to find somebody to help you find that. You're deserving of all good things in life. And there are certain things you need to do. There's certain behaviors and contact you need to do. And just know that there's a whole world of people out there that are really thinking about you. You're not alone. And there's somebody out there that knows exactly what you're going through and wants to help you. And you will in the future want to do the same.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're promoting here. That's exactly what we're trying to get across. You're not alone. There are people out there who want to help you. You just have to believe and go out there and find them. So, thank you for that, Brad. Thank you. So, thank you, Brad Hutchinson, for joining us on this Sunday morning and sharing your life journey with us. It's not easy for people to talk about. Not everybody is willing to share their personal life stories with us and their experience and their challenges. You certainly were open up today and shared a lot of value. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you, RJ, and keep up the good work.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. And when people like yourself come forward and share their life experiences on platforms like ours, especially on social media, but give hope to people out there, especially our young boys and men, and maybe change their life and their mindset in a positive direction. That's our goal here with Voice of Men 360, and especially with the show Open Up. We want to bring individuals and allow them to share their life journey, have an open conversation about the problems and life challenges that we face and how we can help them through them. So I have a few announcements to end the show, and that is we have 4 live shows weekly. First of all, you joined us today on Open Up, which is our Sunday morning live talk show in English, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us for that today. Then we have our weekly webinar yesterday, Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We had another member of the Gatehouse, so please check that out. Again, those are weekly webinars, Saturday, 10:30 to 11:30. We also have a Tamil language live talk show. Those are recorded Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. That's for people living outside of Canada. This is called Vili, and that's a Tamil language talk show. And then we have a panel discussion twice a month, and that's both in English and in Tamil. So please join us for that. And then we turn our content into podcast episodes. So please reach out to us and participate at your convenience. And then please join us every third Sunday of the month for our men's support group. We host this again the third Sunday of every month, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Please come men only and join us for that. And then we have our upcoming events, a special youth panel discussion on a day of National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. And that's Friday, May 7th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, please come join us for that special youth panel, May 7th at 7 p.m. And then we have the first observant of the World Day of the Boy Child. That is May 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Please come out and join us again for the first observance of the World Day of the Boy Child. That is our talk show, and there are no limitations with age, gender, ethnicity, nationality, ethnic groups. All walks of life are invited to participate. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be a part of our organization in any way, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, communities, organizations, governments, corporations, or any association that may help spread this message and help the men's work that we're doing. So please reach out to us. Our phone number, again, we are open up. Reach us by phone at 437. Sorry, we are Voice of Men 360. You're listening to Open Up. Call us at 437-889-8329. Again, our phone number, 437-889-8329. Or you can email us to info@voiceofmen360.org. Visit our website, www.voiceofmen360.org. And you can find us on all social media channels. We are Voice of Men 360. As well, please visit us on Facebook and YouTube and like and subscribe for more of our videos. Thank you for joining us today. We want to help more people and reach out to more people. And please continue your support. I'm RJ Horner. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Better days ahead.